The silent rivers flowing beneath the ocean. A Geography Sleep Story. Part 1, The Hidden World Beneath the Waves. Hello, and welcome, to this quiet place. Take a slow breath, in, and out. Tonight, we are going somewhere peaceful, somewhere few have ever seen. We are going, beneath the ocean, to discover rivers, that flow in silence, in the deep. Imagine, if you will, the surface of the ocean, on a calm day. The water is smooth, like glass, reflecting the soft colors of evening. Gentle blues, and purples, and the faintest hint of gold. The sun is setting slowly, so slowly, painting the sky with colors that fade, one into another. But beneath this peaceful surface, beneath the waves you can see, there is another world entirely. A world of silence, and stillness, and slow, gentle movement. In the depths of the ocean, where light fades to darkness. Where the water grows cold, and heavy, and still. There are rivers. Rivers that flow, not above the earth, but below the sea. These rivers are invisible from above. They move, so slowly, through the deep water, carrying with them the secrets of the ocean. The cold, the salt, the ancient memory of ice. Tonight, we will follow these rivers. We will drift, slowly, gently, through the peaceful darkness. We will learn about the currents, that flow like silent streams. Through canyons carved in the ocean floor. There is no hurry, here in the deep. Time moves differently, beneath the waves. A current that flows, for 1,000 miles, might take 100 years, to complete its journey. Close your eyes now, if you haven't already. And imagine, you are floating, weightless, in the gentle darkness. The water around you is calm, and cool, and still. You are safe here, in this quiet place. Far above you, the surface of the ocean, rises and falls, with slow, peaceful waves. But here, in the deep, there is only stillness. Only the gentle, almost imperceptible, movement of water. Flowing, like a river in the night. These underwater rivers, these silent streams in the deep. They have been flowing, for thousands of years. Maybe millions. Moving, so slowly, through the darkness. Carrying cold water, from one place to another. Some of these rivers, begin in the far north. Where ice meets the sea. Where the water grows cold, and heavy, and begins to sink. Down, down, through the layers of the ocean. Other rivers, begin in warm places. Where the sun beats down, and water evaporates. Leaving behind salt, making the water heavy, dense. Until it too, begins to sink, flowing downward, like honey, like syrup. And in the deep, these rivers meet. They flow together, or past each other, like currents of air. Invisible, silent, ancient. Imagine now, that you are following one of these rivers. You are drifting, slowly, gently, through the cool darkness. The water around you is still, so still. But you can feel, just barely, the gentle current, carrying you forward, through the deep. There is nothing to worry about, here in the silent ocean. Nothing to disturb your peace. Only the slow, gentle flow, of water. Moving through the darkness, like a whisper. As you drift, you might notice, the ocean floor below you. Soft sediment, fine as powder, covering ancient rock. The sediment is pale, gray or tan, settled over thousands of years. From above, from the surface, tiny particles, drifting down, like slow snow. The river you are following, flows over this sediment. Sometimes, the current is just strong enough to lift the finest grains, carrying them along in the slow flow, like dust on a gentle breeze. But mostly, the river flows without disturbing anything. Silent, invisible, felt only by the most sensitive instruments, or by someone, like you, who has learned to drift, and feel, and notice the smallest movements in the stillness. In the world above, on land, rivers rush and tumble. They carve valleys, they foam over rocks, they roar. But here, beneath the ocean, rivers are different. They flow with infinite patience, taking centuries to travel what a surface river might cross in days. There is something deeply peaceful about this slowness, this patient flowing through the dark. Year after year, decade after decade, century after century. The same slow current, following the same path. And as you drift, you become part of this slowness, part of this ancient rhythm. Your breathing slows, your heartbeat slows. Time itself seems to slow. You are moving, but you barely notice. The current carries you, so gently, so softly, through the peaceful darkness of the deep ocean. Above you, far above, the surface of the ocean continues its endless motion. Waves rise and fall, tides come and go. Storms may cross the surface, wind may blow. But down here, nothing changes. Down here, there is only peace. Only the slow, eternal flow of deep water, moving through darkness, in silence. The pressure here, in the deep, is enormous. Tons of water, pressing down, from above. But you don't feel it, in this dream, in this quiet place. You only feel the gentle embrace of the ocean, holding you, cradling you, in its cool depths. And the river, the silent river, continues to flow, carrying you along, through the darkness, toward distant places you have never seen. Places where other rivers meet, where currents mix and swirl, in slow motion. Let yourself relax completely now. Let the current carry you. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. Just drift, slowly, peacefully, through the silent depths of the ocean, where rivers flow, unseen, unheard, in the deep darkness, far below the waves. And as you drift, in this peaceful place, you might begin to wonder, how many of these rivers flow beneath the sea? How many silent currents weave their way through the deep? The ocean is vast, so vast. And beneath its surface, there are countless rivers. Some small, some large, all of them moving, in their own time. Following paths, carved by density, and temperature, and salt. In the days and nights to come, we will explore some of these rivers. We will drift, through canyons beneath the sea. We will follow cold water, from the poles. We will discover brine pools, and density currents, and the great conveyor belt, that circles the earth. But for now, for this moment, simply rest here, in the gentle darkness. Floating, weightless, in the silent deep. Feeling the slow current, carrying you forward. Let your body relax, completely. Let your thoughts drift away, like sediment, settling to the ocean floor. Let yourself simply be here, in the peaceful dark. The river continues, flowing through the night. And you continue, drifting, deeper, into peaceful sleep. Carried by the current, held by the ocean. Safe, calm, at rest. Part 2, the nature of underwater rivers. As you rest, in this quiet place, let me tell you, slowly, gently, about these rivers. These silent currents, that flow beneath the sea. An underwater river, is not like a river on land. It doesn't have banks, made of earth and stone. It doesn't have a surface, that you can see. Instead, an underwater river, is a current of water, flowing through other water. Like a stream of air, moving through still air. Or like honey, pouring slowly, through water. These rivers form, because of differences. Differences in temperature, differences in salt. Water that is colder, is heavier than warm water. Water that is saltier, is heavier than fresh water. And heavy water, slowly, gently, sinks. It sinks down, through the lighter water above. And as it sinks, it begins to flow, following the shape of the ocean floor, like a river following a valley. Imagine, if you will, pouring cold cream, into warm coffee. Watch how the cream, sinks, and swirls. How it flows, in patterns, through the darker liquid. Underwater rivers, flow in much the same way. Slowly, gracefully, following invisible paths. Paths determined by density, and gravity, and the shape of the seabed. Some of these rivers, are vast. Wider than any river on land. Deeper than any canyon. Carrying more water, than all the rivers of earth combined. Others are small, and local. Flowing for just a few miles, in a small area. But all of them, share the same quiet nature. The same slow, patient flow, through the darkness. The water in these rivers, moves slowly. Sometimes, just inches per second. Or even slower, inches per minute, per hour. A leaf, dropped into a river on land, might be carried away quickly. But something drifting in an underwater river, might travel only a few feet, in a day. This slowness, is part of their beauty. Part of their peacefulness. These rivers are in no hurry, to reach their destination. They flow, through the deep, for decades, for centuries. Some currents, take 1,000 years, to complete their circuit. Traveling, slowly, around the world. As you float here, in your imagination, in this peaceful darkness, you can feel the gentle current, carrying you along. There is no rush, no urgency. Only the slow, steady flow, of deep water. The ocean around you, is layered, like a cake. Warm water on top, near the surface. Cool water in the middle, at intermediate depths. And cold water, very cold, at the bottom, in the deep. The rivers we are following, flow between these layers. Or along the boundary, where one layer meets another. Where warm meets cold, where fresh meets salt. Sometimes, if you could see these rivers, from above. If you could make the invisible visible. They would look like ribbons, of darker water. Flowing through lighter seas. Winding, and curving, and meandering. Just like rivers on land, following the easiest path. The path of least resistance, through the deep. But most of the time, these rivers are invisible. You cannot see them, even if you are swimming through them. You can only detect them, with careful instruments. Measuring temperature, measuring salt, measuring density. Scientists, who study the ocean, use special tools. They lower instruments, on long cables, into the deep. They measure, carefully, patiently, the properties of the water. And slowly, over time, they map these invisible rivers. They trace their paths across the ocean floor. They measure their speed, their volume, their temperature. It is slow work, this mapping of invisible rivers. But it is peaceful work, work done with patience and care. The rivers themselves care nothing for being mapped. They continue to flow, whether anyone watches or not. Flowing, as they have flowed, for millions of years. Long before humans walked the earth. These rivers were flowing in the deep, carrying cold water from the poles toward the equator, carrying salt and minerals and memories of ice. And they will continue long after we are gone. These patient currents, these silent streams, flowing forever through the peaceful dark. Let yourself rest now in this understanding. You are part of something ancient, something vast, floating in an ocean that has been flowing for countless ages. The current holds you gently, safely, carrying you along through the night, through the deep darkness where rivers flow unseen. Your body is relaxed, completely relaxed. Your mind is quiet, drifting, like sediment falling through still water. You are safe, here in the deep, held by the gentle current. And as you rest, the river continues to flow. Slowly, endlessly, through the silent ocean, carrying you deeper into peaceful sleep. There is something profoundly calming about knowing these rivers exist. Knowing that beneath the surface of all the noise and motion, there is this slow, steady flow that never stops, never hurries, never changes. It is like a heartbeat in the earth, a slow pulse, moving water around the world, connecting every ocean, every sea, in one vast, silent circulation. And you, floating here, in your imagination, are connected to this ancient rhythm, this slow dance of water and salt, of cold and warmth. Let yourself merge with this rhythm. Let your breathing match the slow pace of the deep currents. In and out, slowly, peacefully. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do. Only rest and drift and flow. The ocean holds you. The current carries you. The darkness embraces you. And in this quiet place, beneath the sea, where silent rivers flow through endless night, you are at peace. Part 3, the Black Sea's underwater river. Let us drift now, slowly, to a particular place. A place where one of the world's most remarkable underwater rivers flows. Imagine you are floating in the warm waters of the Mediterranean Sea. The sun above is bright and warm, the water is clear and blue. But you are not staying at the surface. You are sinking, gently, slowly, down through the water. Down, where the light begins to fade. Down, where the temperature begins to drop. Down, to where something remarkable is happening. Beneath the surface of the Mediterranean, there is a place where water flows in a very special way. A place where an underwater river begins its journey. This river flows from the Black Sea through a narrow channel called the Bosporus, and then, beneath the surface of the Mediterranean. The Black Sea is a large body of water, surrounded by land on almost all sides. It receives fresh water from many rivers. Rivers that flow down from the mountains, bringing rain and snow melt. Because of all this fresh water flowing in, the Black Sea is less salty than the ocean. Its water is lighter, less dense. But in the depths of the Black Sea, there is also water that is very salty, very dense. Water that has been there for a very long time, trapped beneath the fresher layers above. This deep water slowly begins to flow. It flows through the Bosporus, a narrow strait between two lands. It flows beneath the lighter water that flows above in the opposite direction. It is like two rivers flowing past each other, one above, one below, moving in opposite directions in the same narrow channel. The upper river carries light, fresh water from the Mediterranean into the Black Sea. The lower river carries heavy, salty water from the Black Sea into the Mediterranean. And as the deep water emerges into the Mediterranean, it begins to sink down through the lighter water above, flowing like a river along the seafloor. Scientists who have studied this underwater river have found that it behaves just like a river on land. It has banks made of the lighter water around it. It has a current flowing in one direction. It even has eddies and whirlpools, places where the current swirls and turns back on itself, just like a river winding through a valley. This underwater river is remarkable. It is one of the clearest examples of an underwater river ever studied. And as you drift here, in your imagination, you can follow it. Feel the cool current flowing beneath you, carrying denser water from the Black Sea out into the wider Mediterranean. The water is dark here in the deep, but it is peaceful, so peaceful. The current flows steadily, slowly, never stopping, never resting. Year after year, decade after decade, this river flows beneath the sea, carrying its cargo of salty water into the Mediterranean. And as it flows, it mixes slowly with the water around it. The boundaries gradually blur, until eventually the river becomes one with the sea. But always more water flows from the Black Sea. Always the river is renewed. Always it continues its silent journey through the deep. Let yourself become like this river, flowing steadily, patiently, not fighting, not resisting, just moving gently through the darkness. Your thoughts can drift away like salt dissolving in water. Your worries can sink like sediment to the ocean floor. Here, in the deep, there is only peace. Only the slow flow of water through water. Only the gentle current carrying you into rest. The Black Sea's underwater river is just one example, one thread in the vast tapestry of ocean currents. But it is a perfect example of how water flows in the deep, slowly, patiently, following the pull of gravity, following the shape of the ocean floor, mixing gradually with the surrounding sea. And as you float here, imagining this river, you can feel how calm it is, how peaceful to flow like water, to move without effort, without struggle. Let the current carry your consciousness gently, deeper, into relaxation, into the quiet darkness of sleep. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to resist, only the slow, gentle flow of the deep. Part 4, Density Currents and Brine Pools. Deeper now, we drift deeper into stranger places, more peaceful places, where the ocean holds secrets in its depths. In some parts of the ocean floor, there are pools of water sitting on water. Lakes beneath the sea. These are brine pools. Places where water is so salty, so dense, that it cannot mix with the water above. Imagine you are descending through the dark water, down, past layers of temperature, layers of salt, down, to the ocean floor, thousands of feet below the surface. And there, in the darkness, you find a lake. A pool of liquid, sitting on the seafloor. The edges are clearly visible, like the shore of a lake on land. The water inside the pool is perfectly still. This water is not like the water around it. It is much saltier, many times saltier, than sea water. It is so dense that it sits in a depression on the ocean floor, unable to rise, unable to mix with the lighter water above. If you could touch this water, it would feel different. Thicker, heavier, strange. Like a liquid, but not quite like regular water. These brine pools are rare, but they exist in various places around the world. In the Gulf of Mexico, in the Mediterranean, in the Red Sea. They form when salt deposits beneath the seafloor dissolve slowly into the water, creating this super salty liquid that pools in low spots. And once pooled, these brine lakes can last for centuries, sitting quietly on the ocean floor, surrounded by regular seawater, but separate, distinct. Sometimes, density currents flow from these pools, spilling over the edges, like waterfalls in slow motion, cascading down the sides of underwater hills. Picture this in your mind. A waterfall, underwater. Heavier brine, flowing down, through lighter seawater. So slowly, so gently, that it barely seems to move. But it does move, steadily, patiently. Following gravity, following the slope of the land. Flowing, like honey, through water. These density currents are another kind of underwater river. Rivers of brine, flowing through the sea, carrying their salty cargo to deeper places. In your imagination, you are floating above one of these brine pools, looking down at the strange boundary between two different waters. The pool below is perfectly calm, perfectly still. Its surface, like a mirror, reflecting nothing in the darkness. And as you watch, you might see a slow current beginning to flow. A trickle of dense brine starting to spill over the edge, beginning its descent down the side of an underwater slope. This current moves so slowly that you could watch it for hours and barely see any change. But it moves inexorably, pulled by gravity, pulled by density. There is something deeply peaceful about this slowness, this patient flowing of water that is in no hurry, that will reach its destination eventually, in its own time. Let yourself be like this current, moving slowly, without rush, without worry, simply flowing in the direction gravity takes you, which is down into deeper rest, deeper peace, deeper sleep. Your body is heavy now, relaxed, like the dense brine settling into the low places, finding its rest at the bottom, in the deep. These brine pools and density currents are part of the ocean's slow circulation, part of the way salt and minerals move through the sea. They are rare and strange, and beautiful. These pools of liquid, sitting on the seafloor. These rivers of brine, flowing through the darkness. And they remind us that the ocean is not uniform. It is layered, and textured, and full of invisible boundaries. Between waters, of different temperature, different salt, different density. Some creatures live near these brine pools. Strange animals, adapted to the harsh conditions. They swim along the boundary between the brine and the seawater. But nothing can live inside the brine itself. It is too salty, too hostile to life. It remains a sterile lake beneath the sea. Yet it is beautiful in its own way. This pool of stillness in the deep. This heavy water that sits so quietly on the ocean floor. As you rest here in your imagination, floating above this brine pool, you can feel how the ocean is filled with these hidden places. Places of mystery and stillness and slow motion. Where water flows in ways we rarely see. Where rivers run beneath the sea in silence. Let this knowledge settle over you like a blanket. Soft and warm and comfortable. Let it ease you deeper into rest. There is nothing to fear here in the deep. Only peace, only quiet, only the slow flow of time. Part 5, The Great Ocean Conveyor Belt. Now, let us drift even farther. Let us follow the grandest underwater river of all. The current that circles the world. This current has many names. Scientists call it the thermohaline circulation. Others call it the global conveyor belt. But whatever its name, it is the same thing. A vast, slow current that moves through every ocean, carrying water from the surface to the depths, from the poles to the equator, and back again. This journey takes a long time. A single drop of water in this current might take 1,000 years to complete the circuit. 1,000 years of slow flowing through the darkness, rising and sinking and traveling around the world beneath the waves. The journey begins in the cold places of the earth. In the far north, in the Arctic Ocean. And in the far south, around Antarctica. Here, where ice meets water, where the air is freezing. The ocean water grows very cold. Cold, and heavy, and dense. And when water grows cold enough, and dense enough, it begins to sink. Down, through the layers of lighter water. Down, toward the bottom of the ocean. This sinking is the beginning of the conveyor belt. The beginning of a journey that will cross the world. The cold water sinks and spreads. It flows along the ocean floor like a river, moving slowly, patiently, toward the equator. This bottom water, this deep, cold current, flows south from the Arctic and north from Antarctica, meeting and mixing in the deep basins of the sea. Imagine you are traveling with this water, sinking slowly in the cold polar seas, feeling the weight, the heaviness, pulling you down, down, through the darkness, to the ocean floor. And then, slowly, beginning to flow, carried by the current, toward warmer latitudes. The journey is slow, so slow. Years pass, decades pass, as you drift along the bottom, moving just inches at a time through the deep. Above you, far above, the surface of the ocean continues its endless motion. Waves rise and fall, storms come and go, ships pass overhead. But down here, nothing changes. Down here, there is only the slow, steady flow. The ancient current, that has been moving, for countless ages. Carrying its cargo of cold water, through the darkness. Eventually, after many years, the current begins to rise. Slowly, gradually, the cold water starts to warm. As it travels through warmer seas, it absorbs heat from above. And as it warms, it becomes lighter. It begins to rise slowly through the water column, moving up toward the light, toward the surface. This rising happens in certain places. Places where the ocean allows the deep water to come up. Where winds and currents and the shape of the seafloor all combine to bring the deep to the surface. And when the water finally reaches the surface, after its long journey, it has traveled thousands of miles. It has been in the deep for centuries. It carries with it nutrients, minerals, the memory of the poles. This water then flows along the surface, warmed by the sunday, pushed by the wind, moving back toward the poles, where it will cool again, and sink again, and begin the journey all over again. This is the great conveyor belt. This is the slow heartbeat of the ocean, rising and sinking, flowing and returning, in an endless cycle that never stops, never rests. It moves more water than all the rivers on land combined. It carries more heat than any other process on Earth. It connects every ocean, every sea, in one vast circulation. As you rest here, in your imagination, you can feel this great current, this global river, flowing beneath the surface of the world. It is always there, always moving. A slow pulse, a steady rhythm, connecting everything. And you, floating in this current, in your mind, are part of this ancient system. Part of this slow dance of water and planet. There is something profoundly comforting about knowing this current exists. About knowing that beneath all the chaos and noise of the surface, there is this steady, slow flow that never falters, never changes. Let yourself be carried by this current. Let it take you deeper into rest, deeper into the quiet darkness of sleep. You are safe here in the deep, held by the ocean, carried by the current, moving slowly through peaceful darkness. The conveyor belt continues to flow, and you continue to drift deeper and deeper into sleep, carried by the current, held by the water, at peace in the silent deep. Part 6: Submarine Canyons and Their Flows. Let us drift now to another place, to the edge of the continental shelf, where the ocean floor drops away into darkness. Here, at the edge, are canyons, deep gorges carved into the seafloor. Canyons as deep as any on land, but hidden beneath the waves. These submarine canyons are pathways, channels through which water flows. And sometimes, these flows become underwater rivers. Imagine you are floating above one of these canyons, looking down into the darkness below. The canyon walls drop away steeply on either side. At the bottom of the canyon, far below, there is movement, slow movement, of water and sediment. A current, flowing down slope, like a river in a valley. These canyon currents begin in different ways. Sometimes, a storm on the surface stirs up sediment on the shelf. The sediment mixes with water, making it heavy, dense. And this dense mixture begins to flow down the canyon, pulled by gravity, gaining speed slowly as it descends. Or sometimes, cold water flowing along the bottom finds a canyon and follows it down, like water finding a valley, seeking the lowest path. These flows, these underwater rivers in canyons, can be powerful in their own slow way. They carry sediment, rocks, organic matter from the shallow shelf down into the deep ocean. Over millions of years, these flows have carved the canyons deeper and wider, just as rivers on land carve valleys through stone. But the process is much slower beneath the sea. It takes thousands of years for the canyon to change noticeably. But change it does, slowly, patiently, shaped by flowing water. Let yourself drift down into one of these canyons, descending slowly through the cool water. The canyon walls rise on either side, draped in darkness. Below you, you can feel the gentle current moving down the canyon, carrying you deeper into the peaceful abyss at the bottom of the slope. There is no fear here, no danger. Only the quiet flow of water through stone. Only the ancient process of sediment moving from shallow to deep. The canyon is like a highway for deep water, a channel that guides the flow down into the depths. And as you drift, carried by this current, you can feel how the ocean uses these canyons to move water, to move material from one depth to another. It is all part of the ocean's circulation, all part of the slow processes that shape the seafloor, that distribute nutrients, that connect the shallow and the deep. Some of the most famous submarine canyons are found off the coasts of continents, places where ancient rivers once flowed when sea level was lower. These rivers carved valleys into the exposed land, and when the sea rose, the valleys filled with water, becoming canyons beneath the waves. Now, these canyons channel underwater flows, guiding currents from the shelf to the deep, creating pathways for underwater rivers to follow. One of the most remarkable things about these canyons is how they connect different parts of the ocean. They connect the shallow coastal waters with the deep sea. They allow nutrients from the land to reach the depths, and they allow deep water to flow up onto the shelf. This exchange is vital for ocean life, for the creatures that depend on nutrients flowing from one place to another, for the slow cycling of materials through the sea. As you rest here, drifting in this canyon, you can feel how everything is connected, how the ocean is one vast system, where water flows from place to place, carrying with it everything the sea holds. And you are part of this flow, part of this connection, part of this ancient system, drifting peacefully through the darkness. Let the current carry you deeper into the canyon, into the quiet, into the restful darkness of sleep. The walls of the canyon fade into shadow. The current flows steadily beneath you, and you drift, weightless, relaxed, carried by the water, held by the darkness. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go. Only rest, only peace, only the slow descent into sleep. The canyon continues down into the deep. And you continue with it, drifting deeper into dreams. Part 7, the Mediterranean outflow. There is a place where the Mediterranean Sea meets the Atlantic Ocean. And here, something remarkable happens. The Mediterranean is a warm sea, surrounded by land, heated by the sunday. Water evaporates from its surface, leaving behind salt. This makes the Mediterranean water saltier than the Atlantic. Saltier, and therefore heavier, denser. Where the Mediterranean meets the Atlantic, at a narrow strait called Gibraltar, this dense water begins to flow. It flows out of the Mediterranean into the Atlantic, but not at the surface. It flows beneath the surface as an underwater river. Imagine you are at the Strait of Gibraltar, floating in the clear water where two seas meet. Above you, at the surface, water flows from the Atlantic into the Mediterranean. But below you, at depth, water flows the opposite direction, from the Mediterranean into the Atlantic. Two rivers flowing past each other, one above, one below, in the same narrow channel, moving in opposite directions. The deeper current, the Mediterranean outflow, is salty and warm and dense. It flows through the strait and then begins to descend down the continental slope into the Atlantic, following the shape of the seafloor, like a river following a valley. This underwater river has been studied carefully by scientists. They have measured its speed, its volume, its temperature, and they have found that it behaves just like a river on land. It has a defined channel carved into the seafloor. It has banks made of the surrounding water. It even has curves and meanders as it flows down the slope. The current can be surprisingly strong for an underwater river, moving several feet per second in some places, carrying millions of gallons of water every second from the Mediterranean into the Atlantic. But even at this speed, it is peaceful in the deep. The water flows smoothly, steadily, following its ancient path down into the Atlantic basin. As the Mediterranean water flows down the slope, it mixes gradually with the Atlantic water around it. The boundaries slowly blur, but for hundreds of miles, you can still detect it. This plume of warm, salty water spreading through the Atlantic at a depth of about half a mile below the surface. It spreads horizontally at this depth, finding its level where its density matches the surrounding water. And there it flows, mixing slowly over vast distances. This Mediterranean outflow is important for the Atlantic Ocean. It brings warm, salty water into the cooler Atlantic. It affects the density, the temperature, the circulation of the entire North Atlantic. It is part of the Great Conveyor Belt we spoke of earlier, part of the ocean's slow circulation that connects all seas. And as you drift here, in your imagination, following this current, you can feel how the oceans are connected, how water from one sea flows into another, how everything is part of one vast, slow cycle. The Mediterranean outflow has been flowing for millions of years, long before humans ever saw these waters. It was flowing steadily, patiently, from sea to sea. And it will continue, long after we are gone. This ancient current, this river beneath the waves, flowing, forever, through the deep. Let yourself become like this current. Steady, patient, flowing, without resistance. Let your thoughts flow away, like water mixing with water. Let your body settle, like sediment, finding its rest. You are the current, flowing gently, through the darkness. You are the water, mixing, dispersing, becoming one with the sea. The outflow continues to flow, moving from the bright Mediterranean into the darker Atlantic, carrying its cargo of warm, salty water into the deep. And you continue to drift deeper into relaxation, into peace, into sleep. Carried by the current, held by the water. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to worry about. Only the slow, steady flow of water through water. Only peace in the silent deep. Part 8, Antarctic Bottom Water. Now, we travel to the coldest place on Earth. To the far south, where ice and ocean meet. To Antarctica, where the coldest water begins its journey. Antarctica is a land of ice. A vast white continent, covered in snow and glaciers. Surrounded by the coldest ocean on the planet. Here, in these frozen waters, something remarkable happens. The ocean creates the densest water anywhere on Earth. It happens in winter, when the temperature drops. When sea ice forms on the surface. When the wind blows cold and harsh across the frozen sea. As sea ice forms, it leaves behind its salt. Only the pure water freezes into ice. The salt is expelled into the water below. This makes the water beneath the ice extremely salty and cold, so cold, just barely above freezing. Cold and salty, this water is incredibly dense. The densest water in the entire ocean. And it begins to sink, inevitably, irresistibly. Down, through the water column, it sinks. Down, to the ocean floor, beneath Antarctica. And then, it begins to flow. This is the Antarctic bottom water. The coldest, densest, deepest current in the sea. It flows north, along the ocean floor. Moving slowly, patiently, through the deep. Spreading across the bottom of the Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans. Imagine you are sinking with this water in the cold, dark seas around Antarctica. Feeling the weight, the heaviness, pulling you down. Down, past all the lighter water above. Down, to the very bottom of the ocean, where the pressure is immense, and the water is near freezing. But you are safe here, in your imagination. You feel only the peaceful coldness, the quiet darkness. The sense of sinking deeper into rest. At the bottom, the Antarctic bottom water begins to spread. It flows north, hugging the seafloor. Moving beneath all the warmer water above. This current is vast, truly vast. It carries more water than any river on land. More water than you can easily imagine. It flows for thousands of miles across the ocean floor, reaching as far north as the equator and beyond, filling the deepest basins of all the world's oceans. The journey of this water takes centuries. A single particle sinking near Antarctica might travel for 500 years before rising again. 500 years of slow flowing through the darkness. 500 years of patient movement along the ocean floor. This is the slowest part of the ocean's circulation. The deepest, coldest, most patient current on Earth. As you rest here, drifting with this ancient water, you can feel the immensity of the ocean, the vastness of time, the patience of nature. This current has been flowing since ice first formed on Antarctica. Millions of years of steady flow through the deep. And it will continue as long as ice remains at the poles. This slow heartbeat of the ocean. This cold current flowing through the darkness. The Antarctic bottom water is vital to the ocean. It carries oxygen to the deepest depths. It moves nutrients from the surface to the bottom. It drives part of the great conveyor belt that circles the Earth. Without this cold water sinking at the poles, the ocean would be a very different place. The deep would be stagnant, lifeless. But instead, this current keeps the ocean alive. Keeps it moving, keeps it breathing. In slow, patient cycles that span centuries. As you imagine this cold water flowing beneath you, you can let yourself sink with it. Sink into the deepest rest, the most profound peace. Let the coldness become a kind of numbness, a letting go. Let the darkness become a comfortable emptiness, a void of peace. Let the pressure become a gentle weight, like a blanket, holding you down. You are at the bottom now, of the ocean, of your consciousness. In the deepest place, the quietest place, where nothing moves, except the slow, patient current. The Antarctic bottom water continues to flow north, across the ocean floor, toward distant lands, carrying its cold, carrying its darkness, carrying its peace. And you continue to rest, held by the deep, cradled by the darkness, at peace in the silent cold. There is nothing, nothing at all, except this stillness, this cold, this darkness, this peace. Part 9. The life within these silent flows. Even in the deepest currents, even in the coldest flows, there is life. Not the life of the surface, with its color and light, but a different kind of life, adapted to darkness, to cold, to pressure. In the underwater rivers we have followed, small creatures drift with the current. Tiny organisms, too small to see, floating in the flow. Bacteria and single-celled life, drifting for years through the darkness, feeding on the organic matter carried by the current. And larger creatures, too, live along these currents. Strange fish that hover in the flow, waiting for food to drift past in the slow-moving water. These fish are adapted to the deep. They have large eyes to catch what little light exists, or no eyes at all, navigating by feel, by vibration. Their bodies are soft, delicate, suited to the cold and pressure. They move slowly, conserving energy, in a place where food is scarce. Some creatures that live in these depths glow softly. Bioluminescence, faint lights in the darkness, like stars in the deep sky of the ocean. These lights are not bright, just small sparks, tiny glimmers. Enough to see in the absolute darkness, but no more. Imagine you are drifting with these creatures in the cold current, in the darkness, seeing occasional, tiny lights, winking on and off. It is peaceful, here among these silent beings. They ask nothing, they make no sound. They simply exist, drifting, in the eternal flow. Near the brine pools, we visited earlier. Strange creatures, gather at the edges. At the boundary, between the normal water, and the toxic brine. They feed on, the bacteria, that thrive there. On the organisms, that can tolerate, the extreme salt. It is a harsh place, but life finds a way. Even in the underground rivers, flowing through submarine canyons. Life clings to the rocks, in the current. Creatures, that filter the water, catching particles, as they flow past. All of these creatures, are part of the current. Part of the flow, part of the silent rivers beneath the sea. They depend on, the moving water, for food, for oxygen. They have evolved, over millions of years, to live in these flows. And in turn, they affect the currents themselves. Their feeding, their waste, their deaths. All add to the water, change its composition slightly. Become part of, what the current carries, downstream. It is all connected, all one system. The current, the creatures, the minerals, the salt. All flowing together, through the deep. As you rest here, in your imagination, you can feel, this connection. How everything, is part of everything else. How you, too, are part of this flowing universe. Let yourself, be carried, by this understanding. Let it ease you, deeper, into peaceful rest. You are connected, to all of this. To the deep currents, to the drifting life, to the patient ocean. You are part of, the great flow, of existence. And in this connection, in this oneness, there is deep peace, deep rest, deep sleep. Part 10, The Future of Ocean Currents. As you rest here, in the deep, drifting with the currents, let us think, just briefly, gently, about the future. These currents, these silent rivers beneath the sea, have been flowing, for millions of years. The same paths, the same slow circulation. But the ocean, is changing, slowly. As the world warms, as ice melts, as the climate shifts, the currents, may change too. Scientists, study these changes, carefully, patiently. Measuring, the temperature of the water, the salt, the flow. Watching, to see if the currents, are slowing, or changing course. Some worry, that the great conveyor belt, might slow down. That the sinking, of cold water at the poles, might weaken. As fresh water from melting ice, makes the polar seas less dense. If the currents slow, the climate might change. The distribution of heat, around the planet, might shift. Some places, might grow colder, others warmer. But the ocean, is vast, and patient. Changes happen slowly, over decades, over centuries. The currents have survived, many changes, in Earth's long history. Ice ages, warm periods, continental drift. Through it all, the ocean has flowed. Adapting, adjusting, continuing. And so, even as we think about change, there is comfort, in the ocean's patience. In its vastness, in its slow, steady rhythms. Whatever comes, the ocean will endure. The currents will flow, perhaps differently, but they will flow. The deep will remain, cold and dark, and peaceful. And life, will adapt, as it always has. Finding new ways, to live in the flows. Continuing the ancient dance, of water and life. For now, for this moment, in this quiet space, the currents flow, as they have always flowed. The underwater rivers move silently through the depths, and you can rest in their eternal rhythm. Can let yourself be carried by their patient flow. Can surrender to the peace of the deep. There is nothing to worry about, nothing to solve or fix or understand. Only this moment, this breath, this peace. The ocean continues to flow. The rivers beneath the sea continue their ancient journeys. And you continue to drift deeper and deeper into rest. Your breathing has slowed to match the pace of the deep currents. Your heartbeat has settled into the rhythm of the tides. Your thoughts have dissolved like salt in water. You are at peace, complete peace, floating in the silent darkness of the ocean depths, held by the water, carried by the current, at rest. The eternal flow. And now, as we come to the end of our journey, let yourself simply rest. The underwater rivers will continue to flow through the night, through tomorrow, through all the days to come. They will carry their cold water, their salt, their secrets, through the silent depths, beneath the waves. Forever flowing, forever patient, forever at peace. And you, too, can rest in this peace. This deep, quiet, eternal peace. Let go of everything. Let yourself sink completely into sleep. The current holds you. The darkness embraces you. The ocean keeps you safe. There is only stillness now. Only peace. Only rest. Sleep well in the silent deep, where rivers flow beneath the sea forever.